Local LLM hardware bottlenecks and workarounds. Running massive local LLMs continues to blur the boundaries between DIY obsession and data center engineering. In one case, a user retrofitted a mining motherboard, Gigabyte GAH110D3A, with a humble Celeron 96GB total VRAM from a mix of RTX 3090 and 3070 GPUs and 16GB DDR4 RAM. Despite the lopsided architecture, they report surprisingly robust performance with Qwen 3235B Q2, a mixture of experts or MoE model, only 22B parameters active per token, achieving 18.71 tokens second if all processing is kept on the GPU. Bottlenecks quickly emerge when offloading any layers to CPU or pushing for higher quantization, Q4, CPU slowness, PCIe X1 lane saturation, and slow RAM throttle performance to sub 1 token sec. The open secret for low-budget MoE inferencing? Use as much GPU VRAM as possible and keep all heavy lifting off the CPU, even if the host system is vintage. PCIe splitter cards, often little more than commodity hardware, can be surprisingly effective so long as one accepts a bit longer model load times. For rare cases where memory overflows, incremental upgrades, e.g. a second-hand i5 CPU, offer marginal gains, but the biggest returns come from maximizing VRAM and minimizing CPU involvement. For now, local LLM tinkerers are learning to live with stupid and fascinating Frankenrigs, knowing that true hardware upgrades, like moving to server-class motherboards and high-throughput memory, are still the ticket for dense models or more aggressive offloading. Open agent benchmarks and reasoning models. Benchmarks for agentic reasoning, a core challenge in AI that thinks before acting, are rapidly evolving. Meta's Superintelligence Lab and Hugging Face released Gaia 2, a new open agentic AI benchmark suite. Gaia 2 isn't merely about static language tasks. It evaluates LLMs on tool use, multi-step workflows, plans involving external knowledge retrieval, and even their relation to time, a lingering blind spot in current LLMs. Curiously, many major open models are omitted from the reference leaderboard, including GLM 4.5, DeepSeek, and various Qwen variants, despite strong unofficial agentic or tool calling performance. Some of this, as community members point out, is a matter of benchmarking costs. Claude Opus, for example, is often left out for its prohibitive API expense. But there's also a pattern of partial results and cherry-picked contestants, especially when closed models like Sonnet 4 or GPT-4 remain the only benchmarks for certain tasks. On the technical front, advances in local agent runtimes are breaking ground. DSPY MicroAgent provides a nano-agentic Python harness, supporting planning, tool calls, and both OpenAI and Llama via native or prompt-driven approaches. This package uses explicit plan-act, finalize loops, and robust cost accounting, supporting tool-validated execution traces out of the box. A rising star in open weight reasoning is NVIDIA's Nemotron Nano 9B V2. With a novel Mamba 2 transformer hybrid design, mostly MLP and Mamba layers, using just 4 attention layers, Nemotron clocks top scores on math, complex logic, and long context benchmarks for its class, and introduces explicit reasoning on-off modes and tunable token thinking budgets. This style of explicit, budgeted reasoning trace hints at a broader trend, building LLMs for tool-driven, agentic workflows that can be controlled, traced, and optimized in production. On the MoE front, LingFlash 2.0 from Inclusion AI is a 100B parameter language model with just 6.1B activated at inference, offering superb complex reasoning and high inference speed, 200+ tokens sec on H20 hardware, matching the performance of dense models several times larger. Tools and UIs for local agentic LLMs. The arms race for local AI agent tooling now sees a slew of purpose-built frameworks. The latest Llama v7.0 continues to raise the bar for terminal-based LLM 2i interfaces. Key features include persistent per-user conversational memory, cross-session preference tracking, secure code execution in Python, JS, Bash, and a templating system for controlled, sandboxed code evaluation, complete with real-time result presentation and smart language detection. Llama sits in a sweet spot between lighter-weight command-line tools and bespoke dev environments, integrating Ollama, OpenAI, Anthropic, and more under a single TUI, while offering dev-centric features like local context caching, secure template execution, and robust memory management. For AI developers tired of repetitive prompt context and dangerous copy-paste into Bash, live context and memory integration are a massive productivity boost. On the browser front, NativeMind's Ollama browser extension transforms any local model into a lightweight web agent, automating research tasks, parsing PDFs, images, and performing page-level actions, all 100% local, with context limitations as the only major constraint. Session stability and context window limitations remain pain points, especially for models under 10B parameters, but efforts like NPCPY and native multimodal assistance hint at a future where local agents rival cloud-based workflows for most knowledge tasks. For voice-based local agentic futures, FireRed Chat is an all-in-one, self-hosted, real-time AI voice agent solution. It includes full duplex ASR TTS, end-of-turn detection, and RTC server integration, all self-contained with user privacy front and center. The only external dependency, your self-hosted LLM backend, Ollama, VLM, or DiFi, keeping personal data and model traffic truly local. Meanwhile, on Apple's platforms, Swift Transformers 1.0 cements native support for Core ML, MLX-backed LLM and agentic workflows. The focus ahead, better agentic MCP, model context protocol for local tool resource access, and seamless integration with Apple's new MLX framework. Crucial infrastructure as more developers tap on-device AI. Training-free image video editing, model pruning, and human video generation. Text-guided, training-free image editing continues to unveil new creative workflows. The recent color control method, built for transformer-based multimodal diffusion backbones, enables precise, word-level color edits in both images and video, relying on attention map and value token manipulation within models like SD3, Flux 1 Context, and even GPT-4o. The ability to disentangle color from geometry and lighting, with no model retraining required and robust temporal coherence in video, is a significant leap for artists and post-production. The approach leverages transformer-style quadrants in the attention map to localize and apply edits, outperforming both hand-tuned masks and diffusion pipeline hacks on color consistency, edit locality, and preservation of background detail. Elsewhere, Qwen image pruning demonstrates the power of surgical model slimming. By removing 20 layers from Qwen image and keeping 40, they produced a 13.6B parameter model, down from 33B, at near parity on benchmarks, with seamless support for LoRa and ControlNet. This is a textbook example of practical model compression, minor metric losses for massive compute and memory gains. In generative video, the newly released Humo tackles the challenge of high-quality human-centric video generation from text, images, and audio signals. Unifying visual, audio, and prompt conditions, Humo enables scene, appearance, and sound-controlled synthesis, supporting subject preservation and audio-synced motion, even at 480p or 720p on 32GB GPUs. The model employs multimodal conditioning across 97 frame sequences and supports fine-tuned multi-GPU inference, FSDP plus sequence parallel, pushing open-source video synthesis toward practical, creative applications. Meanwhile, DIY hardware hackers are bridging the gap between commodity sensors and 3D printed customization, showing how semi-professional, open 6K camera builds can be assembled from off-the-shelf modules. Despite grumbling over what really counts as building, is it an enclosure remix or an engineering feat? These projects demonstrate a growing convergence between custom hardware, open imaging models, and creative autonomy. Model fine-tuning, platform support, and inference hardware economics. Beyond new models and architectures, the ecosystem for local model serving and fine-tuning is growing, if unevenly. Intel has quietly released an LLM fine-tuning toolkit for ARC GPUs, with a caveat: hardware is scarce, limiting adoption. The broader trend, dominated by NVIDIA and to a lesser extent AMD, remains the race for server-class DRAM high-bandwidth memory (HBM) capacity, with conventional PC memory facing price hikes as suppliers pivot fabs toward lucrative server and AI customers. DDR4 and DDR5 prices are expected to rise 8–13% in Q4, with LPDDR4X and GDDR6, GDDR7, crucial for mid-range smartphones and GPUs, in even tighter supply. On the efficiency side, model pruning and MOE architectures, see LingFlash 2.0, aim to retain SOTA results while drastically reducing active parameter count and memory requirements. Hardware commodity cycles, as always, still shape where and for whom the latest models are practical to run locally. Security, privacy, and legislative threats. This week also brought major red flags on security and privacy. Supermicro data center server motherboards have been found vulnerable to two unremovable pre-boot malware exploits, CVE 2025-37-6198. Attackers with BMC, baseboard management controller admin access, can remotely reflash firmware, persisting even across OS reinstalls and drive swaps. Notably, these vulnerabilities survived Supermicro's previous patch, closing one attack vector only to leave worse ones open. Attackers leveraging supply chain or firmware OTA channels remain a persistent risk, especially in AI-centric data centers where server fleets share hardware signatures. Meanwhile, the EU's controversial chat control legislation would require mandatory client-side scanning of all private digital communications, even in encrypted apps, moving beyond targeted warrants toward universal surveillance. The scanning would target three directions: detected illegal CSAM as yet unknown material through AI cues, and grooming via behavior detection, all occurring before user messages even leave their devices, fundamentally undermining the value of end-to-end encryption. Technical realities undermine the regulation's effectiveness. Determined offenders can trivially bypass scanning through pre-encryption, steganography, or jurisdictional evasion. Alarmingly, even minute false positive rates, which are the norm, could mean millions of innocents flagged and reported each day, with entire digital lives put at risk. Experts, privacy advocates, and some national governments are pushing back on what is being called the largest blanket surveillance regime ever instituted in the democratic world. Commercial interests, surveillance-focused vendors pushing their monitoring tech, are as much in the driver's seat as lawmakers, and legal transparency is thin to non-existent. Across LLM platforms, overzealous AI-powered moderation is now stifling creative work and software development. Weapon animation code for FPS browser games is being misflagged as physical arms trafficking, locking creators out of their own accounts with little to no recourse. The dilemma: regulatory mandates and automated scanning combine to create a false positive hell, driving users toward local, and yes, less censored, LLM workflows. Motherboard malware, unpatchable at the root, network-level surveillance, and AI-generated moderation lockouts are converging. An increasing number of users and organizations are turning to local agents and private infrastructure, not just for cost or latency, but because trust in remote platforms and hardware is being steadily eroded. Model compatibility, community projects, and MCP focus. For tinkerers and developers, open-source tooling for LLM agentic workflows is accelerating. Browser-side solutions like Jarvis MCP make it trivial to bring self-hosted assistants into web workflows with zero API key headaches. Model Context Protocol (MCP) remains central in these agent stacks, integrating tool use, tracing, and flexible context handling for agents powered by local LLMs. From Swift transformers, now emphasizing MCP and agentic use on Apple hardware, to NativeMind's browser agent and both DSP and FireRed Chat, the push to standardize agent context and tool plugin interaction is in full swing. This is reinforced by ongoing requests for wider MCP agent support in benchmarks, e.g. GPT-OS 120b for tool calling tasks, signifying MCP's importance across the OpenAI agent landscape. Weaponized artifacts, LLM moderation, and malware risk. A parallel worry: the use of LLM-hosted artifacts for phishing. Reports are emerging of search-indexed Claude artifacts used as vehicles for phishing pages, hosted under legitimate Anthropic.com URLs, luring users into scams under the guise of official billing support pages. While savvy users know to scrutinize domains and links, less technical folks may be caught off guard. The broader lesson: any shared, user-generated output system, especially where indexing is allowed, risks rapid weaponization. AI-generated moderation is already a double-edged sword. For example, in coding contexts, LLMs have erroneously flagged basic variable naming in legitimate projects as weapons or assault rifle design, resulting in account suspensions and slow no recourse. Despite calls for more careful human-in-the-loop review, the scale and economic incentives drive vendors toward more, not less, heavy-handed automated gating. Layered atop persistent firmware malware, regulatory overreach, and unreliable moderation, these issues make the privacy, transparency, and auditability properties of self-hosted local agentic stacks ever more important. Voice and dialogue, dual-channel modeling, and Barge-in tech. New approaches in speech and dialogue modeling are also surfacing. The NTPP, Next Token Pair Prediction project, extends generative speech-language modeling to support dual-channel spoken dialogue, enabling more natural, fluid exchanges over baseline single-channel methods. This opens the door for richer, interruption-resistant voice agents, especially when paired with fine-grained end-of-turn and voice activity detection systems now accessible in open-source stacks like FireRed Chat. On a related note, fully self-hosted voice AI pipelines integrate these advances, supporting privacy-preserving real-time communication with multi-language speech recognition and synthesis engines running side by side with the user's local LLM agent backbone. No API keys, no cloud dependencies.